I'm Lauren Kunze. I'm the CEO of PandoraBots. It's a chatbot development and hosting platform. And this is Mike Fisher, the CTO of Etsy. For anyone who doesn't know, Etsy is the global marketplace for unique handmade goods. So if you need sort of a one-of-a-kind eclectic gift, it's the best place to go. I was telling Mike earlier, my favorite piece of office art, which is a robot holding a heart-shaped balloon, is from Etsy.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks for having me here. Excited to be here and talk about what we've done with machine learning, in particular in style. And yeah, I'd love to share that with everybody.
Yeah, so Mike is going to teach us today how we can make an additional $260 million in revenue using AI, specifically, historically to date, what Etsy has done with search. So Mike, could you explain to us why search is a uniquely hard problem for Etsy?
Yeah, so most people think about search on e-commerce as kind of a solved problem, and in most cases that would be correct, but Etsy's special. I mean, we're the place for special. It's where you go for special items. Our CEO talks about one of his favorite sort of queries, search queries and listings for a peacock costume for your pet turtle. And so we have everything from the traditional, art and handmade goods, clothing, furniture, everything, all the way to the strange and wonderful. And we like to think it is the place for special. We have 60 million listings created by over 2 million sellers. And so we don't have a catalog. We don't have SKUs that e-commerces typically have. In fact, I like to say that if we are selling a blue shirt, an e-commerce site might sell that same blue shirt 5,000, 10,000 times. And so they understand when someone types in blue shirt in the query that this is the one shirt that I'm going to show them because it sells. Our blue shirts are described by the sellers, and they can describe it whatever they want. They can say this is a blue shirt that's hand knitted from the yarn that I've spun off of my sheep that I graze myself. And so all that's fine and wonderful, but it makes it very difficult for search.
Yeah, peacock costume for my turtle is a hard natural language processing issue. I think that would confuse even our conversational AI systems.
True. Yes, exactly. So that's why search is hard. And so what we do is we use a traditional search index with TF-IDF, but that only gets us so far. So what we've done is we realized a couple of years ago that we need to apply or had the opportunity to apply machine learning on top of that. And so we created something that we call CSR. It's context-specific ranking. And so when we receive the search results from our search index, we then, in real time, re-rank the top 800 based on a machine learning model that's trained on all the searches that have happened prior. And so we trained this model to learn about things that are context-specific to that user. It's the search query, it's location-based, it's other information that we know about the user, and then we can re-rank that in real time and show the most relevant results on the top page because, as everyone knows, the first page of the search results are the most important. We see about 83% of our sales on that first search page. And so getting them right or getting the most relevant things to the buyers is really important. And that's how, over the last 2 years, we've been able to increase our GMS, our gross merchandise sales, by $260 million just from application of CSR on top of search results.
Yeah, that's incredible. So dynamic personalization is really working for you guys.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so you've solved search. We never say
yeah,
solved.
Never say solved. We're still working.
Yes, more to go. But what's really the next frontier for Etsy? What are you focused on today with AI?
So again, because Etsy is special, we realized that style, or we have a hypothesis that style is really important. That on a typical e-commerce, maybe more of a commodity item, like a coffee grinder or something, you care about attributes, maybe like the price and so forth. But on Etsy, while that might be important, you also are buying this for either someone else's style or to express their self-identity or yours. whether it's a gift, for a wedding or a holiday or a birthday or for yourself. A lot of this, it's really important that you express the style, or the outfit for your turtle. You want to express the style for your turtle.
Your turtle has unique peacock style.
Right. So, so all of that says something about the buyers, and so we believe that style is sort of the next area that we wanted to focus on.
Okay. So, what exactly is style? How do you define that? How do you understand it? I, don't really know anything about it. We're both kind of engineers,
right,
we just. But what does it mean to Etsy?
Right. So, it's a great question. So, we turn to our merchandisers, and our merchandising team are the ones who are the experts on style. They're the ones that get called up, and when someone wants to know what's hot on Etsy, what's selling, what's hot this summer, what's the newest trends, they're the experts at this. And over the years, they've been curating guides and things like this for different holidays. And so they had come up with 43 different styles. Well, let me walk through some slides real quick and show you what we, don't know if we're going to get the slides up. All right, there we go. All right, so if a buyer searches for a search query like large canvas tote bag, this might be a typical result set. And you can see down the left-hand column that we have the typical filters of e-commerce. So we can select the geographical location that you might be searching for, the price range and things like this. But it still doesn't narrow that search. We can still have thousands or tens of thousands of items that come up in this search. And there are particular styles that are associated with these tote bags that we can't get to with those traditional filters. And so our merchandisers were aware of this, that they were aware that there are these styles with each of these listings that are important to the buyers. And so they had been, in the past, hand curating these guides based on styles and things like that. And so our data scientist went to this merchandising team and said, how can we help? And so they came up with the hypothesis that they could try to detect style across all of our listings. And so that was the project that they started on last year. They've been able to now publish a paper about it and do some terrific work. And so it started with this notion of there are styles across all these product categories that buyers really care about.
Yeah, and so this paper details what you guys really invented, which is the first predictive model on style, correct?
Right. That's right.
Okay, and then how much does style really matter to your buyers?
Yeah, so what we did was from the merchandisers, they had all these curated items, but as you know from chatbots, the thing about machine learning is it takes a massive amount of data. And so even though we had a lot of data that we had curated in the past, it wasn't enough. And so the data scientists and machine learning engineers started by looking through all of our search queries. And they looked for search queries that had any of the titles in them of these particular styles. And these aren't the sort of, some of them are traditional styles that we would think of, like boho or mid-century modern, but there's other styles like geometric that you might not think of as a traditional style or celestial or something like that. And they looked for any of the search queries that had these terms in them. And then they took all the items that the buyers interacted with. They clicked, they favorited, they added a cart, they purchased, and we used that as the positive training set. And then anything they didn't interact with, we used as a negative training set. And so we took that and we fed that through a ResNet 50 architecture. So this is a convolutional neural net that has historically been trained for image object detection, except we took off the last two layers of that neural net and we applied a fully connected 43 node network to that. And we did that so that we could understand, not only predict the categorization of a particular listing for a style, but we could get the embedding score. So the probabilistic idea of how likely is it part of one style versus another, because not all, as you can imagine, not all listings fit neatly within a style. And so we did that for the images. We combined that with our traditional TF-IDF terms from the descriptions, and the output of that was run through a shallow neural network to combine them. And we did some dimensionality reduction, and so all of that resulted in a really, a fairly small dimensional vectors for all of our listings that predict their style. And that's what the paper is about and explains in sort of detail the results of that. We're able to get about a 76% accuracy with that. So we can predict with fairly good accuracy what styles listings fit into. And so that's what we did with this, this idea. And yeah, it's, that's where we are right now, and that's where we published the paper. And you ask how much style is important. We think it's very important to the buyers.
Yeah, but have you proved that?
Yeah, good question. So there's a couple things that, that we've been able to do with this data. One, we could run a test to show that buyers indeed care about style within this. And the way we did that is, the first thing we did is we took all 60 million listings and we ran them through this neural net and predicted their styles. So we had a classification for all of our listings. And then we looked at around each item, we did a nearest neighbor. And we did it by text. As you can see, at the top left, the target was this handbag. And if you did it just by text with the nearest neighbor, you came up with a bunch of other bags, which is fine. But we add in the style-based neural net and did a nearest neighbor to that, you can start to see it pulled out the geometric shapes. And so, if you see this, it might be hard to see, but it has some geometric shapes on it. You start to see all of these geometric shape bags. So it starts to give the buyers something more that they're actually interested in. The other one I like to show is this one. This picture of the whales, if you do just text-based, you can see what comes out. You can see a bunch of images of whales. So obviously, somewhere in that listing is the term whales. We're able to, if we did text-based, you find the term whales. But what you can do with this style-based is you can start seeing nautical themes. And so it picked up on this notion that this whale image is a part of a nautical theme style, and therefore what we should show is not just this narrow, other whale images, but a nautical theme. And so we did this, and we're able to prove that there's definitely predictive abilities within styles for buyers. We can show that there are listings that they care about, and we showed this by looking at what people favorited and grouped together, and then we ran the style analysis against that, and we could see that indeed buyers who created who favorited certain items did so in particular styles, and so we know that it is truly important to the buyers that style is an important factor in their decisions.
Okay,
Yep.
So what are the main applications for this today, and where do you see it going tomorrow?
Yeah, so a lot of this has been around listings. So the first applications that we're going to apply this to are buyers, and trying to get a sense of what their style. If they favored a bunch of items, we have that, but what we're our buyers can be on different journeys. So today they might be looking for their pet turtle. Tomorrow they might be looking for a wedding gift. Next week they might be looking for a gift for themselves because they want to celebrate a special occasion. And so we're looking at trying to understand each of those journeys and what style are they after at this particular time. And so we're looking at the latest, the 10 searches, what they've interacted with, try to determine a style, and then apply something like a nearest neighbor into the search results. So not only re-ranking dynamically, but re-ranking based on style.
Right, and that style is very seasonal, right?
Yeah, great question. So it is, in fact, we had a question about how important is style to the buyers from a purchase behavior. And so one of the ways we looked at that is to say, well, if our styles are accurate, we should see some seasonality with this. And so you can see through this data that indeed tropical is purchased more during summer months, as you would expect. Romantic happens to have a huge peak around Valentine's Day. And then of course some other holidays that we see throughout the year. And so this gave us confidence that one, we're accurate in predicting our styles, and two, it really matters to the buyers. That if we could understand this type of style effect on the buyers, we could then highlight stuff without the sellers having to do any more work. We could take what they already give us, these great descriptions and titles and tags and images, and use that to boost it in the search at the right times for the buyers. And so this is some of the work that we're doing right now with the buyers and trying to help them find that exact right item at the particular time for maybe a seasonality effect or other holidays that might be impacting that.
Do you think there will ever be more than 43 styles? That seems a little bit arbitrary.
Right. Yeah. So the merchandisers had used that and come up with it, but I agree. It's a pretty arbitrary number. We don't know if it's...
It should be 42, right?
Right.
That's the meaning of life.
Right. Well, it's actually 42. So the 43rd is actually all other. So you're exactly right. It is 42.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. But even that, we don't know if that's exactly correct. So that's something that we can continue to work on, continuing to iterate our everything from our dimensionality reductions to the neural nets that we're using and trying to make them stronger. As you know, we're talking about that this requires just a massive amount of data and processing power. In fact, I describe Etsy as a bit of an iceberg that everyone sees the marketplace, but that's really just what's visible above the waterline, that tip of the iceberg. And what they don't see underneath is we're really a big data machine learning company, that we capture off the marketplace over 1 billion events a day. And we process all of that into these concepts of visits and user journeys and so forth. And we use them to then train all of our models and so forth and make better recommendations and reports and give reports to sellers. And we push that back up into the marketplace. And so all of that is going to continue to be iterated upon, but it takes a massive amount of data and a massive amount of compute.
Excellent. So machine learning company that happens to sell amazing handmade goods.
Right.
So yeah, you're talking about processing a huge amount of data. What are the big challenges to scaling this? Because I feel like Etsy is also at the tip of the AI iceberg. You've unlocked huge additional revenue in terms of what you've done with search. And it seems like there's a lot further to go with style. So what are the real blockers to sort of this massive rollout of machine learning to all aspects of the business?
And just to finish up on that, the concept of we are this massive sort of big data machine learning company. And the interesting thing is we don't do it to replace people. Like our mission is to keep commerce human, right? The amazing thing about Etsy is that it connects one buyer and one seller at a time. And it can connect them globally around the world. You can find buyers anywhere that might be selling this special item that you're just looking for. And so we're not looking to use all of this machine learning to push people out of that process and make it a fast transaction like kind of a typical e-commerce. We're looking at it to bring people together. And I think that's one of the special things about Etsy is we do all this really massive and very sophisticated engineering to bring people together in commerce. So the problems or the challenges with this are certainly that compute. And so one of the reasons or one of the things we started about 2 years ago was our journey to the cloud. Before that, we were in data centers. We are well over 75% of the way there. The entire marketplace, the entire machine learning infrastructure, all of this runs now on Google Cloud. And so we've been on that journey because we knew we needed this massive amount of compute. And so that's one of the challenges. And then another challenge that I know we both face is hiring.
Yep.
Is the
Retention. Well,
hiring.
Etsy, apparently everybody who leaves Etsy comes back very quickly because the culture is so unique.
We do have a great amount of people who who have left and want to come back, and I do think that's the culture there is incredibly special. It starts with serving this amazing group of sellers, these 2.2 million sellers around the world that are creative entrepreneurs. 90% are identify as women. 40% this is their primary income, and so creating a marketplace that enables that is just amazing and very powerful. It's such a strong mission, and so people love to come back and continue to support that or stay and support that mission. Yeah.
And how big is your engineering and data science team now?
So engineering is over 400 right now and growing, and our data science team is over 30, but we also have another team of machine learning infrastructure and data engineers that's probably another 30 or 40 people that all support that. As you know, it takes more than just one group to produce this. It's really a complete team effort from product engineers, data scientists, the machine learning engineers, the infrastructure engineers, the data engineers. All of them have to be working together to really produce this products for the buyers.
Okay. So given your past work here, would you say that computer vision is the future of e-commerce, or computer vision and deep neural networks?
Yeah, I think machine learning is, this is when I joined 2 years ago, I really believe, and I still believe it even stronger today, that machine learning is going to be applicable to almost every part of the marketplace. You can just imagine that when a seller starts her listing, as she's typing in the title or the description, we can give her instant feedback about it. Is it descriptive enough? Is it, does it have a strong enough strength of style? The images, are they of certain quality? All the way through price and all of this, I think there's a massive amounts of ways that we can make the sellers better, more efficient, and so forth. And then, of course, as we've talked about on the buyer side, we have 60 million items, and getting each individual buyer to the exact item that they want on their particular journey that day is super important, and to do that quickly. So I think there's just ways that we can apply machine learning across the board, continue for years and years.
Okay. Do we have enough time for a few questions from the audience? Okay, great. Anybody have a burning question?
How do you manage recommendation back to the seller in terms of upcoming trends and seasonality? So the Star Wars movie is coming 3 months down the line. Are you giving recommendations back to the seller that something is coming up, you need to prepare yourself?
No, it's a good question. So this, all of this work has the potential to do even more of that. Today, we have guides that we produce for holiday seasons and things like that to help the sellers. So a lot of that is manual. The merchandisers have to do that manually, and we see that we can apply some of this and do that almost in real time. And some of the sellers themselves are super sophisticated and watch for these trends. And they can watch for sort of what's hot within their category and jump on that. And we see that happening all the time. And we'd love to be able to supplement their ability with this information.
Because you give a 30, 60, 90-day head start for them to create the products that they want.
Exactly. When we can see stuff like this through the data about, especially the holiday seasons, that's like a typical e-commerce. It's really big for our sellers. And if we can tell them ahead of time, what's going to be hot or what we see starting to trend, it's super valuable. And so, we're all about trying to make the sellers, lives better, lives easier, find their buyers that they want to. And so if we can give them that information that's powerful, we want to do that.
I just want to ask how you mix and rank the results from text-based and style-based for different users or different times of the year, considering seasonal patterns, or different ways that the user use Etsy?
Yeah. So the text-based and the images are, for this particular implementation, are combined sort of as the last step in a shallow neural network, a two-layered neural network to combine them. And what that produces is a vector of slightly over 50,000 dimensions that help identify that sort of style. And so that's how we combine them. And then we train over a full year's worth of data. And so what that does for us is it allows us to see seasonality. So if we trained for any shorter period of time, you could see sort of trends that are happening, but you couldn't get that sort of year over year seasonality that you see with some of the holidays and so forth. And so by training over full year's worth of data, we get that into the results. And then we can apply that. So when the buyer comes and types in a particular search query, we have the model pre-trained already to understand the seasonality effect. And so we know that this is coming up to maybe a holiday season for like Valentine's Day. And we can then, the model will automatically help re-rank those. And we do that in real time right now with the CSR model is we take 10,000 search results from a typical sort of search index, but we re-rank only the top 800 right now. Yeah.
All right, thank you. That's all the time we have for questions today. Thank you, Mike and Lauren.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks so much.